The last thing Mark ever said to his family was a joke about being late for dinner. 6 hours later, he was on his knees in hot ash, digging with his bare hands, calling their names into smoke that swallowed every answer. The only thing that walked out of that town alive with him was his dog. This is the story of the day Mark destroyed his own home, without even knowing he pulled the trigger. Mark always loved the mountain behind his town. As a geologist, he spent years studying its rock layers, its silence, its secrets. He never imagined that one drilling project approved, funded, and led by him would wake something that had slept for 600 years. That morning started like every other morning for the past 9 years. The smell of toast. The creak of the old wooden floor. His wife Sarah humming to herself while she packed his lunch, still in her sleep clothes, hair tied up messily. Their 8-year-old son Noah sat cross-legged on the floor, wrestling with their golden retriever Max, who refused to let go of Noah's sock no matter how hard the boy pulled. "Max, drop it," Noah laughed, falling backward onto the rug. Max just wagged his tail harder and pulled tighter. Their daughter, barely 4, sat on Mark's lap at the table, sneaking pieces of his toast when she thought he was not looking. He was always looking. He let her take it every time. "Daddy, the mountain man is going to be late again," Sarah teased, sliding his lunch across the table. "Daddy, the mountain man is never late," Mark said, standing up and scooping his daughter into a hug so tight she squealed. He knelt down and let Max lick his face once, twice, then ruffled the dog's ears. "Take care of them today," Mark whispered to Max, only half joking. Max barked once like he understood. That was the last time he saw them smile. Mark had a strange feeling that morning, walking up the trail with Max trotting beside him for the first stretch of the path. The birds had gone quiet. Max stopped walking and stared back down the mountain, ears flat, refusing to move for a moment before Mark called him forward. He told himself it was nothing. He was wrong. At the halfway point of the trail, Mark always sent Max back home, the same routine every morning, a quick whistle, and the dog would bound back down toward the house to guard the family until Mark returned that evening. Today was no different. Max hesitated longer than usual before finally turning and running back down the path. Mark almost called him back. He did not know it yet, but that hesitation, that small delay, was the reason Max was not inside the house when everything changed. The drilling site sat at the base of the mountain, a tangle of pipes, cables, and machinery watched over by a small team in orange vests. Mark checked the readouts one final time before authorizing the deepest phase of the survey, the phase that would take the drill past every safety marker his own report had recommended. He signed the form himself. Nobody questioned him. He was the expert. At 3:40 p.m. the drill hit something. Not rock. Not water. Pressure impossible, ancient pressure released in an instant. The mountain did not erupt like in the movies, with warning tremors and slow-building smoke. It simply opened. By the time Mark felt the ground shake beneath his boots, the first river of fire was already moving. Workers were screaming. Alarms were blaring. And somewhere down that mountain, in a small wooden house, his family had no idea the ground under their feet was about to disappear, and neither did the dog running home to protect them. He ran. Everyone ran. But lava does not care how fast a man is. From the ridge above the town, Mark watched it happen. His town, his home, swallowed in molten orange in under 11 minutes. Rooftops caved in. The market square, where he bought Noah's favorite bread just yesterday, disappeared under a wave of fire. The school. The clinic. The street he grew up on. Gone in the time it takes to drink a cup of tea. He screamed Sarah's name until his throat tore. No answer came. No answer would ever come. Then, through the smoke, something moved. A shape, low and fast, running against the wave of people fleeing uphill. Max covered in ash, limping on one paw, but alive, running straight toward Mark as if his family had sent him one last time to make sure someone survived. Mark dropped to his knees and pulled the shaking dog into his arms. Max whimpered, pressing his head into Mark's chest, and for one terrible moment, that whimper was the only sound of home Mark had left in the entire world. He told himself the rest of his family escaped too. He told himself he would find them at the relief point, shaken but alive. He held on to that lie for 3 days, with Max never leaving his side. For 3 days, Mark searched the smoking ruins for his family, burning his hands digging through ash that was still hot enough to blister skin. Max stayed pressed against his leg the entire time, sniffing at collapsed doorways, whining at places that used to be home, refusing to eat unless Mark ate first. On the 3rd day, digging through what used to be Noah's room, Mark found his son's shoe. Just the shoe. He was not able to cry. Something in him had gone as cold as the mountain had gone hot. Max sat beside him in the ash, leaning his full weight against Mark's shoulder, the only warm and living thing left in a world that had turned to gray dust. What followed was not survival, not at first. It was punishment he inflicted on himself. He wandered the ash-covered wasteland that used to be his town, refusing food, refusing rest, waiting almost hopefully for the poisoned air to finally take him too. Max walked every step beside him, never more than a few feet away, as if he understood that this broken man was the last piece of his family left standing. It was an old woman named Margaret, one of the few survivors, who found him collapsed near a broken well. Max curled protectively against his chest. "You are the scientist," she said, recognizing him. "The one who found the water source under the hospital last year." She looked at the dog. "And that one has not left you for a second, has he?" Mark said nothing. If she knew what he had really done, that his own drill had caused this, she would not look at him with gratitude. She would look at him with hatred. But a secret this big does not stay buried in ash for long. Someone was already asking questions. And that night, Mark was about to find out exactly how close the truth had come. That night, as they sheltered in a half-collapsed grain silo, Max curled at Mark's feet. Margaret said something that froze Mark's blood. "People are saying the mountain did not erupt on its own. People are saying someone drilled too deep. Someone from the survey team." Mark's hands began to shake. His secret, the truth that had killed his own family, was no longer just his to carry. Over the following days, Mark and Margaret found 6 other survivors. A teenage boy named Ethan who had lost both parents, a pregnant woman named Rachel, an injured trekker, and 2 brothers who had not spoken since the disaster. Together, this broken group tried to build something like survival, rationing scorched grain, boiling ash-tainted water, sleeping in shifts against the cold that followed the fire. Max became the group's quiet comfort. He rested his head on Rachel's lap when her back ached from the cold ground. He alerted the group twice to unstable, still hot ground before anyone stepped on it. Ethan, who had gone silent since losing his parents, began sneaking Max small pieces of his own food ration, the first soft moment anyone had seen from the boy since the disaster. Mark became useful too. His knowledge of the terrain, of thermal patterns, of where clean groundwater might still exist, kept them alive. But every time someone thanked him, guilt tightened around his chest like a fist. Every time Max curled up beside him at night, that same guilt cracked open just a little further, a constant, warm reminder of everyone he had lost. Then, on the 7th day, inside a half-burned building, Ethan found a piece of paper that would change everything. Mark found it first, a survey report, his own signature at the bottom, half-burned but still readable. Before he was able to hide it, Ethan picked it up. "This is a drilling authorization," Ethan said slowly, reading the header. "Dated 2 days before the eruption." He looked up at Mark. "Wait, this is your project?" The silo went silent. Every eye turned to Mark. Even Max lifted his head, sensing the shift in the room. He did not run. He did not lie. After everything he had lost, lying felt like the one thing he refused to do. "I had no idea," Mark said, voice breaking. "I swear to every god there is, I had no idea this would happen. My wife, my children, I lost everyone too. This dog is the only piece of my family I have left. I would trade my own life 10 times over to undo this." Silence stretched between them, heavier than the ash outside. Max walked slowly across the circle and sat down directly in front of Mark, facing the group, almost like a shield. It was Rachel, the pregnant survivor, who finally spoke, watching the dog's quiet loyalty. "That dog trusts him completely. Maybe that means something." She looked around at the others. "Hating you will not bring anyone back. But we deserve the truth. All of it. From now on." Mark had spent 7 days waiting for punishment. What he got instead was something far harder to carry, a chance to keep going. Mark nodded, tears finally breaking through the numbness he had carried since Noah's shoe. He buried his face for a moment in Max's fur. "Then let me earn something. Not forgiveness, I do not think I deserve that. But let me get you out of here alive. That is the only thing I have left to give." That night, as they prepared to leave the ruins in search of the nearest relief camp, Mark looked back one last time at the smoking silhouette of the mountain he used to love, Max sitting quietly at his side, leaning into his leg the way he used to lean into Noah's. The mountain had taken his family. It had taken his home. It had taken the man he used to be. But it had not taken the dog who refused to leave him, and it had not taken his ability to save the people still standing beside him, and for the first time since the eruption, that felt like a reason to keep walking. Mark walked away from the mountain that day with a group of strangers who had become something like family, and a dog who remembered what real family used to sound like. Somewhere out there, other survivors are still waiting to find out the truth. And Mark still has to decide, does he tell them everything, or does he let his family's death be the price he pays alone? If this story moved you, imagine what happens next. Do they make it to the relief camp? Does the town ever learn the full truth? Let me know in the comments if you want part 2.